We've spoken about many ways that the Gedolim have directed us to get a Yeshua. And I was speaking now at the coastal to my friend Rav Segel, and he reminded me of one of the ways which I believe that I did not explore in my previous shirim, which I've heard many, many times from Moshe Sternbuch, is as follows. When Moshe Sternbuch told me, said, come to the coastal for 40 days. That's very, very powerful impetus, min hashamayim, in order to procure Yeshua. And again, as we said previously, that the point is to come to a recognition. Yeshua really is just a benchmark. They hit the recognition that Hashem is in complete control. And the tefillahs, especially doing it for 40 days, is supposed to make it into a process, into a journey that's towards greater recognition of Hashem. So Sternbuch told me many times, probably at least 30 or 40 times, maybe more even, that if you can't get to the Koisel every day, then, or let's say you're in Chutz La'aretz, then you should go to a shul and say the 4 sefer of Tillim, which includes Kuf Yotes, Kuf Yotes. Tillim is divided into 5 Sfarim. Say the 4 sefer in shul, and then afterwards give tzedakah. And this is another way to go through the journey. And I believe that this is the beer, this is the explanation, is that the more you have the clarity that your Nisoyin is a journey from point A to point B to a greater recognition of the Bari Olam. So the more siyata d'shmai that you're going to have. 40 days, Chazal tell us, is a time of Yetzirah. 40 days is how long it takes for after conception for the Vlad to be formed. 40 days was the Mabel. 40 days was on Har Sinai. 40 days is a period of creation. It's a period of creation. 40 days you create your journey. And this is what Rav Sternbuch told me, that for 40 days to say the 4 sefer of Tillim and give tzedakah in shul every day, preferably at the same time. Rav Segel at that point, it's also important. I mentioned that on Erev Shabbos, I come here to the Koisel and I daven mincha Makabel Shabbos, and then asked for the bakasha after Kabbalah Shabbos, and he pointed out from which Rabbi Yisrael Yaakov Fischer, who was very a big promoter of this 40 days of the Koisel, told me this actually, that you preferably do it at the same time every single day. But as I mentioned, he told me once that if you can't, then you can, do it twice in one day, before Ma'ariv, after Ma'ariv. But preferably, for sure, when you're doing the 40 days in shul, try to do it at the same time every single day, and to do it separate days, not to do one day before and after Ma'ariv, after night, or after Kabbalah Shabbos. That's a important addition. But again, and I'll conclude with that, as Rav Moshe Sternbuch told me, he said, 40 days at the Koisel, or 40 days saying Tillim and 40 days in shul, he said it's all Dvarim B'Telim unless you also cry. He said really the point of the 40 days at the Koisel, the point of 40 days in shul, the point of all of these practices is really to impact your heart and to get you to cry. And it's not so easy to cry. It's very hard to cry. So I told my friend Rav Segel the following eitzah, which I sometimes use. And in fact, Rabbi Bechaya mentions such a concept, that if a person remembers very emotional junctions in their life, like I mentioned one to him, I remember it must have been about 20 years ago, that I was in shul on Yom Kippur, and Rav Nachman Bullman was there. And he was very old at the time. It was right before he was nifter. He didn't have much strength left. But Hashem gave him, right before Ne'ilah, tremendous strength. And he spoke from the depths of his heart, and he was one of the last Jews in Klal Yisrael who really had a heart. He was from really the old generation, really had a heart. And he really, really moved us at that point. He moved us, and it was also the contrast of him being so sick and suddenly coming back to such strengths. It was a very moving point. And my friend, Rabbi Simcha Grafman, had at the time a paper called Kinder Torah, and he wrote up what happens for next year. And it was very emotional for me to read that paper. I kept that paper inside my Yom Kippur Machzor, and for many years I read it right before Nila. And it really moved me. It brought me to tears just to think about a woman, right, suddenly from the depths of his sickness and his weakness to come to his strength and to ma'or us. It brought me to tears just to think about what had happened and transpired. And so to each and every one of us have in our life, we have experiences which we had that bring us emotionally close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We had salvations. I always remember on the beaches of Brazil, hands around my neck and feeling death at my threshold, feeling my life going away, like leaving me, right, chas v'shalom, right, with these hands around my neck, and then suddenly beginning the gift of Eino Milvado, and then they ran away. It was a very powerful moment in my life. And when I remember it, right, I think about Yeshua's Hashem, and it's very, very ma'or me. It's very, very ma'or me how much we owe everything to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kol neshima v'neshima ta'alka. Every breath to attribute to the Borei Olam, and is a gift. And when a person comes to that hisayrus of his emotions, to move himself, then at that moment he can cry, and that opens up the gates. And this is the point, really. The point is to come to that clarity, to open up the gates, and the tears allow to flow through it where Yeshua to come and impact the person, and to recognize the truth that the Yeshua is only in Hashem's hands. And this is really the goal. We all have our difficulties, and even as I speak, my wife is in the hospital, Nomi Bracha Basara, and the doctors don't really know exactly what the problem is, which is of course worrisome. And the point is, Eino Milvado. The point is to recognize that we all really don't know what it is. If the doctors say they know what it is, they're making a mistake. We really don't know what it is. The only thing we know is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to recognize Him and recognize that we really don't know. And only He knows. And only He is the source of all our salvation, all our strength, and everything that we do. So Hashem in His infinite mercy should help us to come to absolute clarity and the lights at the end of the darkness, right? Whether it's through 40 days of the Kosel, preferably the same time every day if you can. If you can't, before and after Ma'ariv. Whether it's 40 days in Shul, saying the fourth Sefer of Tillim, and then giving tzedakah. Whatever it is, whether it's just davening to Hashem from the depth of your heart, wherever you are, wherever you might be, coming to tears and recognizing that He is the source of all our strength. Whatever you could do, come closer to the Borei Olam. This is really what He wants, and this is the goal, and this is what we're meant to be doing, and this is why Hashem in His infinite kindness brings us difficulties. Hashem should help us to reach this clarity and reach the true understanding that He is the source of all our salvation. Amen. Kein Tirah Tzon.